Hey, this is Andy Golding, partner and chief strategy officer at Kripke Enterprises. And today, before we begin the podcast, I've got some really sad news. The founder of Kripke Enterprises today, Larry Kripke, passed away peacefully this morning, February 13th. Larry was a super guy. He was a inspiration to everyone that met him. He was an inspiration to all the employees of Kripke Enterprises, and really an inspiration to those that he touched along the way. The outpouring of condolences from people that have known him for 30, 40 years has just been incredible. February 13th, Larry Kripke passed away, founder of Kripke Enterprises, and he will be sorely, sorely missed. So thank you. Now on to the podcast.
Started working down at the welfare clinic, had no patients, so I had to build that up. At 70, my dad's patients, he was just hanging, waiting for me.
Right.
So it was great. I got to work with him for 15 years, from 70 to 85. They sell it to equity firm or a larger conglomerate. Those people that buy the company, they really don't care about the employees like myself would, whose people have spent 30 some years, maybe even longer than that was with my dad. We wanted to be able to give back and show our appreciation and not just throw them to the wolves. Frankel Dentistry, we are the first and only 100% dental ESOP in the country, which is amazing.
Hey, this is Andy Golding, partner and chief strategy officer for Kripke Enterprises. And today I am thrilled to have this guest. But before we get to that, this podcast is sponsored by Kripke Enterprises. At Kripke, recycling metal is not just good for the environment, it's good for business. This podcast is produced by Stewart Media Strategies. And today I am thrilled to introduce Dr. Jon Frankel of Jon Frankel Dentistry, where you experience advanced personal care tailored to you in their spa-like environment.
Thank you,
Thank
Andy.
you,
Thanks
Jon.
for having me here. This is an honor to be on your show.
It is. It's my honor. But here's Jon, before we, get deep into your experience here, I was reading your website, and I love that your website really goes into in depth about you and how it said that when Jon was younger, he was an excellent tennis player and made it to the Western ranking for junior tennis. Boy, how old were you when that happened?
So that started at a young age. If we want to go all the way back, Andy, I was almost on the show What's My Line? And they had me on there as a 2-year-old. They wanted to say, what was my line? Well, I was swimming before I could walk. So my parents, they were very proud of that. People would throw me in the pool. People would freak out because there's that baby swimming. But enough about swimming. Tennis then became my love. And yes, I started early.
And then also your website, which it's pretty gutsy. It says you've got a golf handicap of 8.
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty impressive.
Your brother knows something about that.
Do dentists still play golf on Wednesdays? Do dentists still take Wednesdays
Wednesday
off?
afternoon usually is the day, although it's starting to switch to Thursday, which I may have to change the schedule. I don't know. But
right.
Yes, that is the day that they're out there enjoying themselves.
So question for you. I'm sure a lot of, this show is really about the entrepreneurial journey. And my thinking is a lot of people probably don't consider dentists really entrepreneurs. They consider them, people that love, they hate, they clean your teeth. But that is not your story. Your story is much bigger than that. You have a number of practices. How many practices do you have?
So currently we have 2 large practices in Toledo, Maumee area. We're adding in Oregon, Ohio. We've got Louisville, which is Canton area. We have Akron, and then we're adding another practice in Akron. This all started 2 years ago. We started growing as we became an ESOP. A lot of people don't know what an ESOP is, but that is an employee-owned company. So 2 years ago, I decided what's the best out plan. at some point you got to have an out game.
Right.
So I figured let's find a win-win. So the ability to sell the business to the employees where they don't have to come up with any monies.
Right.
That was a perfect scenario that I felt would work out best for everybody, and knock on wood, it has. So anyone that becomes an employee of our business, every year they get 20% of their shares of the company. And after 5 years, they're totally fully vested.
Okay.
And their shares are based on our stock price that comes about every year.
So you had a decision to make. You're saying when you were thinking about, I don't want to, work on teeth till I'm dead. You want to, at some point, retire. And your idea was, instead of just selling your practice,
right.
How come you just didn't sell your practice? A lot of dentists just sell their practices.
So what happens in those scenarios, if they sell it to a DSO, if they sell it to an equity firm or a larger conglomerate, those people that buy the company, they really don't care about the employees like myself would, whose people have spent 30 some years, maybe even longer than that was with my dad. We wanted to be able to give back and show our appreciation and not just throw them to the wolves. Right. So we didn't want to walk away. We wanted to keep working. So this was a way that we could bring everyone on board. And now I'm not rowing the boat on myself. Everyone else is taking part in giving high quality care and service. And I'm overseeing those things.
So what does ESOP stand for?
Well, it's an employee-owned organization where they have ownership in the company. Now, you might have heard of other ESOPs. There's Publix grocery stores in ESOP down in Florida. A number of different ESOPs in the Toledo area. Midas Muffler is a ESOP they became. What's interesting is Heartland Healthcare was a dental ESOP. They ended up selling for $1 billion.
So Heartland Dental Care is a huge dental practice around the country,
right.
and they own different practices. They don't all go by Heartland Dental, right?
No, they were owned by, but they ended up selling to a equity firm. What's interesting is they were a 40% ESOPs, meaning the employee owns 40%, Heartland owned the other 60. Frankel Dentistry, we are the first and only 100% dental ESOP in the country, which is amazing.
So, I have been really wanting to talk to you about this, and boy, you just went right into it. I think we might have to take a step back and explain a little bit more, because the concept of ESOP is easy for you. It's been rolling off your tongue for the past 3 years. So if I have worked for you for 20 years, tell me, or you don't have to tell me exactly it's your 20-year employee, but make it practical and explain it better for someone who's been there for 20 years. What do they really get? And when you say, if I've been there for 20 years, am I investing my 401k into this, or?
So when we became an ESOP, there was the ability, it's a retirement plan, basically.
For the people that work for you you.
For the people that work for us, not with me.
Okay.
I'm out of the ESOP.
Okay.
All our doctors are in the ESOP. I'm the one that's out. I'm CEO of the company. And those employees, unfortunately, everyone starts at zero when it was sold. So if you're a 20-year employee, the benefit you have is your salary, your wage, whatever that is, it increases the value of your stock.
Okay.
So
you're saying the more you make, the more stock you would have gotten when you started.
You get more shares, basically.
All right.
So the doctors that are on board, for the employees that are on board, it ends up being a life-changing experience, because now they are at a certain point going to own the whole company, and there would not be any debt.
Right.
It's a very complicated thing in that the debt that gets paid off for selling it,
right,
it's just like a mortgage on a house. The more years you're there, the less debt there is, the more equity you have.
Okay.
So over the years, that's how that increases. Now, if we grew this to a certain point, 10 years from now, and oh, by the way, I believe in the ESOP so much, my daughter, who's graduating next year from dental school at Nova down in Fort Lauderdale, Lindy Frankel will be coming on board. But that's how much I believe about the ESOP. And, hopefully we continue on this path. It'll be life-changing for everyone down the road, whether if we decide to sell in 10 years to a big company. All our employees at Toledo, Akron, everybody will significantly benefit from that.
Wow.
So knowing that they're wearing that owner's hat is made a huge difference in working together and growth.
So the transition from people not being owners to owners, what are some of the things that you've seen? How does that?
I mean, it's that extra care, whether it's picking up pieces of paper on the ground, whether it's informing me of things I need to know sooner, rather than you're not just in there punching a time clock. Everything they touch is important. So one of my thoughts are, let's say, it's not what the ESOP can do for you, it's what you can do for your ESOP. And it's
Sounds
true.
familiar.
Yeah, have you ever heard that before? That's a new line. I kind of came up with it. But no, that right there is the essence of mindset, should be. Now, we develop core values. You might want to hear that. All this started was because, I started working at a bunch of different businesses. I was younger. The opportunity was there to join my dad out of dental school. He was 70 years old. I started working down at the welfare clinic, had no patients. So I had to build that up. At 70, my dad's patients, he was just hanging, waiting for me.
Right.
So it was great. I got to work with him for 15 years, from 70 to 85.
Your dad worked until he was 85?
Yes. We go to lunch together. He wasn't drilling on your teeth though. He was doing dentures. So don't worry. He stopped using that drill.
But like Dr. Gross.
Yeah. That's a whole nother story. But Sheldon and we got to hang out and don't touch my clock. And, we enjoyed that time together. So very lucky. He got to see our growth and he was always into technology. And that was one thing that we always kept the standard of, being high tech.
Right.
So thanks. What about you, Andy?
So now that your employees are all owners, because one thing that happens when everyone's an owner is that they have stronger opinions on things possibly than they did before. Have you found that you have had to manage that a little bit?
Well, everyone wants to be in the know of every move that gets made, but we have a certain structure that we acquired 8 years ago through Culture Shock, who's a fantastic organization, helped organize our company. So we have a leadership team. We have each area of our company, whether it's hygiene, front desk, insurance, they have their own teams. So things are spread to each area when there's issues that arise, and we're able to spread that information to problem solve. Probably solve more problems in 8 years than the other 25 before that.
That's great.
So it's been really good to help with growth.
Sure. So
shout out to Ron Kaminsky, by the way. He's been the forefront of helping us grow our company.
That's awesome. So before you were in the ESOP and you were just growing your practice, what were some of the difficult times as an entrepreneur? Because clearly you have that entrepreneur spirit. So what were the challenges that you were faced with that you got through that entrepreneurs today might be going through right now and not seeing the end of the tunnel?
So for growth, at least in our business, you need a number of different things. You needed space and equipment. You got to have space and equipment to grow. Number two, you've got to have human capital, which is probably the most important thing. And obviously after COVID, human capital was hard to come by. I mean, that was probably the darkest days that we had. I was walking around in a spacesuit.
Right.
No one else was working. People were scared to work. Doctors were like, I've got a baby at home. I'm not coming in. I'm not getting my. So here I am with a spacesuit on, literally, with a air pack on my back. And I saw emergencies, and I had a few employees that worked with me still just to see those people. But, your employees aren't there like everyone else. I was doing online meetings and keeping them up to breast, everything. But that was probably, without a doubt, the darkest days. As far as growth to get to this point, it's just hard work, education. You need to learn from. I've had a lot of mentors over the years to help grow and build my practice. By no means am I taking any credit for it. It's all, about being hungry and learning about people or following people who have done it before. So you don't try to reinvent the wheel, and you try to, number one, give the best service possible. And in this day and age, more people need to know how to give service, whether it's at a grocery store, if it's at a gas station. It's all about service. So if you do that, you're going to grow your business.
So as you are growing your practices and as they're getting further away from each other, what tools do you use to have continuity in customer service?
So EOS is our business operating system through Culture Shock. They are actually helping lead each practice the same way we do at our main practice, and then grew from there with our leadership meetings. They're called level 10 meetings. Once a week, we have those within our organization, and we all try to do the same thing. So we know what works. We know what the secret sauce has been to build these practices, and it's attention to detail. It's watching, observing, and trying to raise the bar for every person, whether it's doctor, front desk, greeting someone at the door. All those things are huge for your success.
Sure. You know what I find? I was just at a doctor's office. It wasn't a dentist, and the doctor.
Well, I'm your dentist.
Right.
Andy,
well,
so.
the doctor was flat. He was as flat as can be, no personality. And I found that the entire office was the same way.
Yeah.
Just so it all obviously starts from the top.
I like the shock value. So every person gets my personal cell.
Right.
If you only knew how many texts and calls I get, and a lot of times, I meant to call the office, or I've actually started acting like it's a voicemail. You have reached Dr. Frankel's cell, and then they'll either hang up, or then they'll, John, is that you? So it's the shock value. I try to call everyone after any major procedure. I even call if they haven't been confirmed verbally.
Right.
So, you're right. You have to be on it. You have to go the extra mile, and you got to have energy. You got to bring energy to the game because, people are attracted to that. Plus, hopefully you can raise the bar on those that don't, because if they want to be successful, they got to be engaged.
Right. What about tough employees? Have you had any employees that haven't worked out that should have worked out?
So what's interesting is with the ESOP, now every employee, if that person is not pulling their weight, they give it to them. And then they'll actually opt out themselves because it's not a good fit.
Opt out of the company or
opt out of the company,
ESOP?
may leave because there's a certain standard that people expect.
Right.
And if you don't want to pull your weight, you're not going to be in the gang, in the team, you know? So it's been an interesting dynamic of how those things have worked out. And it probably is not for everybody.
Right.
Someone that just wants to press a time card. Hello, Chad Kripke. No, you're good. Good to see you.
It's all live, baby.
It is.
It's all live. So if you're someone that wants to press a time card, do you have a place for someone who wants to press a time card there, or that you can't work there unless you're part of the ESOP?
No, everyone that it becomes an employee gets automatically.
Okay.
They opt out if they're not pulling their weight, and the other employees are being like, this is not the person.
Right. How many dentists do you have in your group?
So I think we are up to maybe 15, 16 total. Um, it's really been great on that aspect, because now those things that I used to have to take everything on, these doctors now are stepping up, and they've actually recruited a number of other doctors, where in this day and age it's so tough to find staff.
Right.
Everyone's helped. So it has really been a great thing, as I said, as far as growth. But we're really focused on raising the bar so everyone can be that type of dentist they want to be, whether it's placing implants, doing high-tech dentistry. But if they're comfortable in their environment, that's fine too. No reason to have to be, can be deferred to somebody else.
So when you started with your father, what are some of the major changes in dentistry that you've seen, business-wise and the actual, cleaning the teeth-wise,
right?
The other stuff. Clinical.
So my dad was the first person in Toledo with a high-speed drill. I mean, it used to be like a crank thing. No, it used to be a crank, the slow speed or whatever. And then he showed me, he has this thing that he used to twirl to when they would make gold crowns, and the hot gold would go in there and you spin it, would go into the mold. I mean, from then till now, and every year technology changes. It's crazy. So now we have CAD/CAM dentistry, where we make mill crowns same day.
Okay.
We'll scan the tooth. It'll have a block. It'll get milled in our milling machine. It'll go in an oven, the heat fire, make it very strong. Patient gets the crown that day. They don't have to wear it temporary. They don't have to come back again and waste their time away from whatever they want. They don't have to get numbed again.
And what was it like when you were doing it with your dad? How long did it take?
So Sheldon would saw this technology, and he lived till he was 95. He wanted to keep working.
No, what before this technology came out? How long did it take?
Well, you would take an impression, you would send it to a lab,
right?
And there's nothing that fits better than CAD/CAM. So your person with their eyes and hands tries to make this crown to fit perfectly on that tiny margin.
Right.
Person wears a temporary, maybe it would come off. Then you got to get them back in to put it back on. Then they're coming back next week. Your crown should be here next week. So it usually takes 2 weeks.
Used to take 2 weeks.
So boom, you put it down, then you get numbed again. So you can see efficiency has stepped up. We personally place our own implants in the office. That's all done by a cone beam scan, 3D scan of your jaw.
Right.
So we virtually place your implant perfectly in the bone. It then gets sent to a company. This one's actually Sirona. It's a German company. Gets sent to Germany. They make a guide. This guide 100% fits in your mouth every time. We take a laser. We make a little tissue punch in the gum. 1, 2, 3. How many drills it takes to make that perfect implant fit perfectly in there? It's all designed outside the office. They come in. We can have an implant placed in 15, 20 minutes.
And
before, you'd have to numb the person, have a big flap. The healing time was a lot worse. You had to take x-ray after x-ray. Is it lined up? Is it missing the other roots of the teeth? Now, it's spot on, and people love it.
Wow.
Then came, my dad was the first person that did dental implants, 1972. They were called blade implants. So he used to tell me these stories about it. He was always running high tech, right? So I kind of followed his footsteps. And now what we do is same day. I think you've probably seen it on a commercial, where same day you can get implants and a denture, same day.
What is the difference between dentures and implants?
So implants hold the denture. Implants stick up out of the gums, right?
It's not
and
a tooth?
It's in the bone. So the implants go into the bone.
Right.
Then there's an attachment to the implant. They're above the gum. So when dentures can be seated on there, they won't move, because the biggest problem with dentures, you see people, speaking or whistling, they're kicking, or maybe they pop out of their mouth or something. This doesn't happen when you have implants, because they're locked in.
So an implant isn't a tooth? I thought implants were teeth.
Well, an implant's goes into the bone, and the teeth then can screw down on top of it. So you can have individual teeth on top of implants, or you can have a bunch of implants. I could have brought you some models today. If you really, you got a good smile, Andy. I don't think you have to worry about that right now, but
not yet.
No.
So can you be a dentist in this day and age without everything you just talked about?
Yes.
You can?
Yes. You could just.
Can you have a regular practice?
You could just fill teeth. You know, when fillings get too big, then they need crowns. But not everyone learns how to do the extra cosmetic dentistry. I mean, I personally do full mouth rehab, which I learned from Dr. Larry Rosenthal and Dr. Appa in New York, who's probably the top cosmetic dentist Dr. is now in the world, how to make smiles and how to open bites and give people a whole new look on life, because they can change their life just by improving their smiles.
So at some point this is so entrepreneurial to do this type of stuff. Keeping up, and like your father was an entrepreneur because he wanted to have the most advanced things. So I would assume that some of this stuff, there's a lot of upfront cost that you have to weigh the cost benefit of, as a lot of entrepreneurs in any business have to do the same thing. Have you hit a home run with every one of these investments that you've made, or have you made any investments that maybe didn't go the way you thought they would?
So usually before, just like a new car that comes out, you don't want to buy the first car, right?
Okay.
You want a couple years down the road, you see what works, what's not working. But every investment, whether it's CAD CAM, which is 3D or 3D technology, we just invested in a new endodontic procedure. It's called Gentle Wave, a very expensive unit. And what it does is flush out the infected teeth when you do root canals with the perfect ratio of medication to almost eliminate any discomfort you would ever have in an infected tooth.
Right.
You know, there's horror stories about root canals. This does not happen using this device.
And what size of investment is a piece
so
of equipment?
You could have
like
$250,000 for a CAD CAM system. You can have $75,000 just for a unit. That's why going to a dentist is not just going to a dentist. That's why price point is not always the same, a price point, because of what you're getting.
Right.
Time savings, technology to help with efficiency, pain-free treatments. All these things go into, obviously, cost.
Right.
So I think if you're looking for a dentist, you got to see what their practice is like.
So maybe if you're looking for a dentist, you need to look for an entrepreneur, because he's going to be on the forefront of this stuff like you are.
It could be, but it always takes reviews.
Right.
Luckily, we've been named Best of Toledo the last 15 years, City Paper. We're very proud of that. In fact, this year, we got the Torch Award, which I think Kripke Enterprises was right there with us. So we're very proud of being able to get that award.
Better Business Bureau Torch Award. And the other person, so it was us. It was Refloor with Brian Elias, and he did a podcast with us about 4 weeks ago.
Right.
Formerly of Hanson Windows. So as I told Brian, I said we were standing on stage next to each other. And I thought, we got this award. I said, he doesn't have it. He's not really from here. And I'm like, no.
Hanson.
Yeah.
Okay.
So his company's called Refloor. So I'm standing there next to him, and I didn't know there were three of us. So they say Refloor and Kripke Enterprises. And I'm thinking, all right, maybe I should have brought a speech or something. So then they say it, and Jon Frankel Dentistry. And I look over to him and I said, we lost.
Oh, no.
And sure enough, you guys won, which is really cool. That was really cool.
Yeah,
very
happy with that.
So you have the ESOP. Tell me what the future looks like. What does Jon Frankel or Frankel Dentistry or Dentistry USA look like?
So the future is, first and foremost, educating our doctors to have the same vision that I've had for 31 years. if they can, take my vision with our core values that we talk about every day.
What are your core values?
We have always better. So we're always trying to improve. Serve all. So we're always trying to serve everyone and the other employees.
Right.
And we have the get, gratitude, encouragement, and trust.
Okay.
If we can follow those things, we're gonna always improve. 100%.
And where's it gonna take you?
So Lindy Frankel's coming on board in a year. Dr. Poole has been fantastic. She's my right-hand lady at Maumee. She was involved with the sale of the ESOP with me, but she has been instrumental in growing the business. She's a very detail-oriented person. We're going to continue to grow, educate our doctors and staff. And, my vision is to make this so successful that every person that works for us, there will be no other financial ability of ownership than just working for a dentist and getting a 401k, because they'll have their 401k. They'll have the ESOP, which would blow away the 401k. Right. There's many stories of employees being in ESOPs. It becomes life-changing.
Right.
So for their families, we're dedicated. I'm going to be dedicated to keep working hard to build this, and who knows where it will go.
So when you are someone that wants to change the lives of your patients, maybe changing the lives of your staff will help get you there.
Exactly. That's one of our mottos, changing lives a smile at a time.
Right.
And, we're going to just keep on going.
Cool. Thanks, Jon. I appreciate it, buddy. I know you're busy buying and selling. So thanks, buddy. We appreciate it. And cool.
Good work. Thank you.
Buddy.